Tell me about Texas, right? I think, Texas's government, I'm learning this too, right? So you have, well, more experience than I, but
You're not a Texas boy?
I am a Texas boy. But when it
Okay.
comes to actually living in Texas, it's been very compartmentalized
Hmm.
for short stints. So I was fascinated when I moved here 4 years ago that we only meet every 2 years.
Yeah.
And that, can you tell me what is advantageous about meeting every 2 years versus other states? Is that an opportunity for us in that
Yeah.
way?
So the founders felt that it was important for lawmakers to really be connected to their constituency and understand what it was like to live with the consequences that they pass of the bills that they passed in Austin.
Mm.
And so they felt that a small, limited government where legislators are number one, businessmen or lawyers
Right,
or
right,
doctors or in their communities was first and foremost, and secondly, lawmakers, right?
right.
So not just career politicians that are in, DC or Austin, but they're actually at home in their district, talking to their neighbors, understanding the issues and concerns from their constituents. So I do see the benefit of that. However, what comes along with that is that lawmakers don't really have that much expertise when it comes to all the variety of
Mm.
issues that they have to
Yeah.
make decisions on every single day. And so they're being asked to vote on very complex bills, complex topics. Our energy ecosystem is incredibly nuanced and complicated. And so they're voting on these major pieces of legislation without truly understanding the impact. And so that's how we decided to really focus on education. And Powerhouse Texas was
That's
born
huge.
exactly in the wake of Winter Storm Uri, because when millions of people go without power and die in their homes because of a widespread blackout, and they look to lawmakers to come up with solutions, and the lawmakers don't understand why it even happened in the first place, we have a major knowledge gap.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen instantiations of that knowledge gap. I think, when Mark Zuckerberg was talking on Zucker or Zuckerberg, I forget.
Zuckerberg,
Zuckerberg.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Talking to congressmen, and just some of the questions that they were asking him, you could tell that they didn't understand that business of what it is in order to be able to affect policy. So you're right. You need to have that level of consistency or an organization that is keeping their eye on the ball.
exactly. We focus a lot on building bipartisan consensus. So just because you're a Democrat or a Republican, we don't pay attention to the letter behind your name.
Right.
We try to meet people where they're at and understand what is of concern to you, what are you interested in learning about, and what's affecting your constituents.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke about increasingly more extreme weather events. We're seeing this a lot, and a lot of legislators who traditionally weren't really interested in talking about climate change are really interested in talking about backup battery storage for their constituents who are without power because a hurricane just came through on the
Right.
Gulf Coast.
Right.
A lot of lawmakers are really interested in talking about rooftop solar as additional backup when the grid fails. And so we're finding those areas of common ground and finding some in bringing in more innovative energy solutions and educating members on that. Other people all around the world are kind of light years ahead of us here in the United States.
Oh, in the United States.
In the
Okay.
United
I was like,
States.
which other state? Well, you just
Yeah,
mentioned
no,
number one,
Texas
number
is
one, number one.
definitely the leader. We are the leader across the entire country, but other countries
I was like, who
definitely
are they? And what do we need to beat them in? I was like, okay.
yeah, yeah.
I would agree with that, right? Q Branch is an international accelerator. And so we're at the forefront to be able to see certain policies in certain countries are driven by a need, and sometimes that need can be affected by just the poly itself, or potentially it drives innovation to be able to address that. And you're right. I think internationally they have their eye on the environment more so than sometimes even the United States. Now, I will tell you the state not to be mentioned here was probably the center of that opportunity, but you haven't really seen a lot of successes come from that. So And to your point about legislation, like we just went through an activity of legislation. What successes came out of that you want to promote or talk about? And then what are still those opportunities that are not finished? Can you elaborate on those wins?
I think a major win was Texas legislators preserving the all of the above approach. So there was legislation that was filed that would dramatically impact the ability for wind, solar, and battery to come online. And reason prevailed, and
It's a good thing.
lawmakers, yeah, it doesn't always happen. And they saw the type of impact that would have on our grid. It would stall the ability for more electrons to be generated and to be used, and it would actually halt some of the economic development that is on the horizon in the state. So it was so many data centers, crypto
Big
mining, the
time.
massive amount of
Land
demand.
development. I think these land developers bought property, but water is really a limiting uh, factor for them to kind of start getting after it.
Yes, yes. And so if water is already a barrier to economic expansion, why add energy to that when we already have the energy tools that we need in our tool belt? So it wouldn't make sense to try to pass legislation that would make it harder for a solar panel to come online, or a wind farm, or to deploy more battery storage. And so we've, for the most part, been a pretty tech neutral state, technology neutral in terms of the energy sources that we derive our energy from. And so we kind of kept that tradition going. Instead of just saying no to renewables, we're saying yes, renewables and battery and nuclear and geothermal. There was some good legislation on geothermal, and ensuring that natural gas has what it needs. And so seeing reason prevail and lawmakers come together in supported very much by the environmental groups, by the Oil and Gas Association, by the chemical industry, and by local landowners, ranchers, farmers, chambers of commerce. So many different organizations came together to oppose these bills, and we were successful in
How does that
halting them.
work, right? Just like you mentioned, all of those stakeholders. Do they come to you to influence that? Do they go to their congressman? Like, how do you play a part in that?
So, as a legislative caucus, the our sister organization is called the Texas Energy and Climate Caucus, where it's a group of around 60 bipartisan legislators, and they are legislators who are wanting to support an all of the above approach. And so our caucus works with different stakeholders to try to support that legislative priority of protecting the all of the above approach. And so we hope to kind of coordinate the legislative agenda and connect stakeholders with key members who are going to help to lead the way on that topic.
And is it a lot of outreach, or they come to your website? How would others know to reach out to you?
They walk the halls of the Capitol.
Show up.
Yeah, they show up. We
And
meet.
sometimes it's not early enough. Sometimes by the time they're like, I'm so frustrated, I have to show up.
Yeah, yeah. A lot happens in the Capitol Cafe too. The cafeteria. Yeah,
Really?
just meet so many interesting people and find
Is
alliances.
it open for us to kind of go make
Anybody,
a?
it's the people's house. Anybody can go in. It's open to the public.
Is the food good or the coffee
Oh
great?
no,
Oh, okay.
they got a new vendor, and it's not as good anymore. But I do appreciate everybody that works there.
So why does it matter about Powerhouse? What is the magic, or why should others pay attention to the Powerhouse?
I think what Powerhouse Texas brings to the table is fostering a culture of evidence-based policymaking within the legislature. So providing the expertise to lawmakers and their staff so that they can make the most informed decision that's going to have a better output for Texans. And the way that we do that is by helping to bridge that gap by bringing in academic researchers through our Energy Policy Advisory Council, bringing in thought leaders and folks in the field and that are leaders amongst the industry, and connecting them and subject matter experts that can help inform lawmakers and their staff about some of the best ways of moving forward. And then really fostering that dialogue. We do a lot of events similar to Q Branch of bringing people together, fostering conversation, and making sure that we have diverse perspectives in the room. Not just lobbyists, which there's plenty of lobbyists that do great work in the Texas Capitol, but oftentimes it's oversaturated with lobbyists. And so we want to make sure that people who don't traditionally have a seat at the table or traditionally have access to legislators can be able to participate in that policymaking process. And so we really focus on cultivating that next generation of energy policy leaders who can help to bridge that gap between science and policy. So we have a fellowship program where we bring in young people with a background in STEM to work during a legislative session and staff the members and help them to drive forward their policy agenda.
I love that, right? It's an educational opportunity for them on the topic that they're passionate about. So how do you measure wins for what you're doing?
It's so hard.
Do you have a scoreboard?
You never know. Doing this work, it's very qualitative, and it's also a group effort, right? And so you never really truly know that this resulted in this, right? Finding the causation is difficult when you have so many different stakeholders involved in the ecosystem.
And then hurting the cats in that
and
way,
you
right?
never know. Was it did a vote outcome happen like this because it's something that our caucus member said, or something that the Powerhouse Texas Advisory Council put out, or the way that you influence or the way that decisions are made is really difficult unless you sit down with every single person that made those decisions and do a postmortem and say, okay, how did you get to this conclusion? And so it's difficult to measure impact, but I know from personal conversations with people that they express that the momentum that Powerhouse helps to build within the Capitol in terms of fostering conversations around a clean energy economy is really important, and the bipartisanship. And so I say we're part of a movement or part of a group of people that are part of this greater community within Texas and the Texas energy landscape that's driving forward that change. So I see us, there's a saying in Spanish about everybody plays a part, a small little part, in hay que traer un granito de arena. So like you have your tiny little piece in the big ocean in the sand, and so
and that can be frustrating though sometimes.
It
right?
is. I just want to take all the credit. That was us. No,
that was me.
That was all Powerhouse Texas.
Tag us.
Yeah,
that's why you need merch to get the merch out there in a very big way. But you're right. It's a long game. There's multiple stakeholders involved in there. It's not just one entity that's affecting that change. So I get it. It's frustrating to kind of manage those successes and wins. It's just more of just like a feeling probably that you have to maintain.
It is. And, we have our metrics and our KPIs and how many people we educated, how many lawmakers we engaged with, how many staff participated in our Energy Academy. We have all that, the quantitative data. And so figuring out how that translate into real impact is a little bit mushy. But for all of our funders out there, we're doing amazing work, and keep
the check coming. Yeah, keep the checks coming, man.
And it's really, those one-on-one conversations that you have with people that have been working with us that shows the impact.